Republicans, coming like Chip Roy, just coming right out and saying, yeah, here's our strategy. Our strategy is to delay, to pretend to collaborate in order to delay, as Henry VIII said, what's the one thing if you lose it, you can never get it back? Time. We are going to burn time. And it's the Democrats' time, because the Democrats are in charge of the Senate right now and the House. So we're going to burn their time. So we've got that. And that, as I've laid out in the previous 2 hours. Then now also, Trump is out with a brand new lawsuit. Did you catch this? This is extraordinary. The BBC is reporting. Of course, it's being reported all over the place. The headline at the BBC, and tip of the hat to Nigel for passing this along, is Trump sues Twitter, Google, and Facebook alleging censorship. Well, wait a minute. How do you sue a private company for inhibiting your First Amendment right of free speech when the First Amendment only regulates government? I mean, it's pretty straightforward stuff. The First Amendment says that government can't interfere with newspapers. Government can't interfere with your right to speak freely. Government can't interfere with your right to peaceably assemble and petition your government for redress of grievances. Government can't do those things. But, outside of a couple of relatively narrow categories like race and gender, if you want to have a private club and say the only people who can come into this club are people who give us $200,000 a year, say in the case of Trump's Mar-a-Lago, you can do that. And I can show up at Mar-a-Lago and say, hey, I have a right to free speech. You need to let me in so I can talk to people. And they can say, no, you don't. We're a private organization. So how is Twitter different? How is Facebook different from Mar-a-Lago? What distinguishes LinkedIn, a private corporation, from Trump's Bedminster estate, where he this morning held this so-called press conference announcing his lawsuit? Well, get ready. This is the single most bizarre constitutional attempt at a constitutional theory that I have seen in a long, long time. But of course, it's a stunt. It's just a stunt. There's nothing serious here. Let me just read to you one paragraph from this lawsuit. And this is the one where what Trump is trying to say is that Twitter can't ban him from the Twitter platform because Twitter has become part of our government. And the government cannot inhibit your First Amendment right to free speech. Here's what they say. Defendant, in this case it was Facebook. Defendant Facebook has increasingly engaged in impermissible censorship resulting from threatened legislative action, a misguided reliance upon Section 230 of the Telecommunications Act, and willful participation in joint activity with federal actors. Now, this would presumably mean, the FBI goes to Facebook and says, give us the data on this guy who attacked the, with a warrant, a legal warrant. Give us the information from the Facebook page of this guy who attacked the Capitol, and they turn it over. Based on that, on the fact that Facebook's cooperating with the FBI, Trump is alleging that they have now become the FBI. They have become part of the federal government. So the sentence continues. Defendant Facebook's status thus rises beyond that of a private company to that of a state actor. Now, Facebook. Anybody who owns, shares stock in Facebook has been pretty startled that, hey, you own part of the U.S. government now? Really? And then the next sentence. As such, defendant Facebook is constrained by the First Amendment right to free speech in the censorship decisions it makes regarding its users. I am not making this up. This is right out of the Trump lawsuit. Facebook is part of the government because they are turning over information about the traitors who attacked our country and tried to destroy our democracy, our republic, on January 6th, because they turned that information over to the FBI. Therefore, they are now part of the federal government, and they have to allow Donald Trump back on their platform. Seriously, not making this up. This falls into the, Mark Pocan, Congressman Pocan, he calls it throwing spaghetti on the wall. I have a little more colorful phrase, but I can't say it on the air, but you get the point. So they're trying critical race theory. They're trying, they're censoring me. They're un-American. They're trying, crime is up all over the place. Well, shootings are certainly up. Why? Well, because, 40 million more guns were sold last year. It was a big year for the gun manufacturers. They did really good. And you have more guns, you have more shootings, so gee, surprise, surprise. Plus, unemployment and COVID and all these other things going on, homelessness. So Republicans are trying to weaponize that against Democrats. Oh, Democrat-run big cities, Right. So are any of these going to work? And if so, which of these various strategies that the cancel culture? Oh my God, the Democrats want to cancel you. They're trying to cancel Dr. Seuss and Mr. Potato Head. Which one of these things are they going to settle on? I'm guessing it's going to be tough on crime, which of course really means, when white Republicans say it, tough on black criminals. And critical race theory, which really means black people want to come into your school and scare your little white children. And, we'll see what the third one is. Meanwhile, if Democrats want to win elections, they need to be aggressively campaigning on and collectively messaging around ending student debt. Right now, Joe Biden could wipe out $50,000 of student debt from every student debtor in the country with the stroke of a pen. He could do that with an executive order. He needs to do that now. And then they need to campaign on making education debt-free like it is in every other developed country in the world. We know that every dollar invested in educating people like my father and Louise's father back during, after World War II, the GI Bill, every $1 that was spent by the federal government received $7 in additional tax revenue that they wouldn't have gotten if those young men had not been, mostly men, had not been college educated, because college educated people make more money. So number one, free education. Number two, health care. Americans, 1.4 million Americans went bankrupt last year because of health expenses, and you're going to see huge numbers of them this year as the freeze on evictions ends, and as the medical bills start showing up, particularly for people who got COVID and are uninsured, these red state folks. There's probably going to be a couple million medical bankruptcies this year. And not only that, the insurance companies have been scamming the Obamacare exchanges, so the deductibles are going up, the co-pays are everything's going up, and the insurance companies are getting more and more aggressive about requiring pre-clearance, before you get a procedure and stuff like that. So number two, free health care. And again, this isn't radical stuff. This is just bringing us up to the standards of the rest of the developed world. And if I was to add a number three to that, I'd say decriminalize marijuana nationwide, which will bring out young people, will bring out a lot of people. And I think that this could be a very, very effective winning strategy for Democrats. To just nail it down to a couple simple things and work really, really hard to get them passed. Well, and obviously, we're going to rebuild America, the Green New Deal. I mean, that's actually, I should make that number one, because that's the next thing that the Biden administration says they're working on. And if they don't come up with a multi-trillion-dollar package and pass it through reconciliation, they're going to be in big trouble.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
But that's what say me. What say you?